All right, we will start this month's meeting for the library board. First, we'll take attendance. We can start to my left.
Wanda Manglecook.
Kristen Schipper.
Amy Oren.
Jenna Reno.
Hannah James.
Paul Jensen.
All right. First, we have the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion for approval of the order of the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the order of the agenda.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Next, we have approval of the minutes from our March 18th meeting. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Next, we have public comment. Any public comment? All right. On to staff report with Megan.
Hello, you have my report in your packet. I'll just give you some highlights. So I want to mention that we're hiring 2 circulation positions right now. These are not new positions, they're just people who have left and we're rehiring. But one of the people that has just started is actually a previous City of Fargo library employee who has come back. So we welcome back Ann Arbor Miller. There's one thing I listed under community engagement because I didn't really know where else to put it, is that we've started offering computer classes at the YWCA shelter. It's a trial program. We're going to see how it goes for the next 6 months or so. We haven't done classes at the library itself for a few years now, just because we've found it more helpful to do like kind of point of need help. So we've replaced it with those weekly tech help sessions. But the YWCA requested classes. And, you know, they have a particular population with certain needs, so we'll see how that goes. The library is closed this Friday for Good Friday, but we do have some programs going on. Since there isn't school on Thursday, Anna, our teen librarian, is hosting a hangout time at the Carlson Library with just a whole bunch of things for kids to do if they're bored. And then we have a bug event on Saturday morning. This is at the main library. It's geared towards elementary school kids to learn all about bugs. We'll build a bug house, see some bugs. I will not be there because they're gross. Another thing I want to mention for teens is that we're starting a new teen book club. The first book is a graphic novel, and we have copies available for kids to pick up at the main library information desk. For adults, we have a couple neat events coming out this month. The first is Word Dances. It's going to be a program blending poetry and dance. A local author, Katie Brookbauer, has written a book of poetry and then also choreographed dances to go along with the poems. So next Tuesday at the main library, she'll be reading/dancing them. And then next Wednesday, we're partnering with Prairie Public to host a film screening at the Fargo Theater of a documentary about public libraries in the United States, both the history of public libraries and the issues that we're facing now. It will show on Prairie Public at the end of the month. So this is kind of a preview screening of it. It is free to attend, but they ask that people RSVP on the PBS website. And then one last thing I'm going to mention is a craft swap we have going on the last week of April. These are always amazingly popular. The swap opens at 10 a.m. that Monday, but if people bring in stuff in advance, they'll get a ticket to get in an hour early to have first dibs at the things. Are there any questions for me?
Questions?
No, just a comment. Was it last week that was Library Appreciation?
National Library Week was last week.
National Library Week. Anyway, I'm sorry I'm a bit late, but just extending my thanks and gratitude for everything that you guys do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Fun.
All right.
And just a heads up, if you intend to attend the Free for All Public Library film screening and panel discussion, you'll have to listen to me talk some more. I'm on the panel, so just I don't want you to be shocked. Hear me talking more. That's
Okay. All right, moving on to our director's report.
It's there in your packet. Up down at the bottom under Goal 6 Marketing, I had an interview, live television, with KVRR to talk about the Institute of Museums and Libraries, potential cuts to the state library, which was interesting. It's good to have that conversation. And also was on KFGO to talk about Senate Bill 2307. So that was fun. If anyone else has any other questions in regards to that.
Okay, any questions? No? All right, moving on. We have no unfinished business. Looking at new business, letter A, the 2024 impact report.
You all have your copies there. It's a wonderful tool, and it's good to have it and get it to all our elected officials. So despite the rhetoric and Bismarck, you can see what we're actually doing and what we provide to the community. So yeah, a lot of good work. Thanks to Melissa Duncan, our community relations specialist, for kind of being the point person on that. It's every year. It's a very, very professionally done and a very nice tool for the organization. So wanted you guys to have a copy of it.
Yeah, it looks very nice. Any comments or questions at all on the report? No? My favorite part's always to see the books that have been checked out the most.
You know, I think that is the single most.
That's the page I go to right away.
You know, I know there's people that were on the Friends board. That's like the first, where's that page?
Yeah, yes.
What's the, like top 10s? We always got to have the top 10.
Yeah. All right, then we're going to move on to letter B, legislative update for SB 2307.
Yes. Yesterday afternoon, it barely passed the House floor by 2 votes. They attempted to get a reconsideration on it this afternoon around 2 o'clock, which they didn't have enough folks in the room to do that. So we're still in the position of it going to the governor's office and hoping for a possible veto in that regard. I think one of the situations that this legislation has is that the Association for States Attorneys is opposed to it. And they're named specifically as essentially the legal entity to act on said complaint on said potentially offensive material. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. In talking to Paul prior to the start of the meeting, certainly from the city side, we have very, very strong support from the city attorney's office. And in those conversations, the city attorney knows the state's attorney for Cass County, obviously, and know that they're 100% against this. So obviously, it's kind of wait and see at this point. Certainly getting a lot of support from the community in regards to any conversations in relation to this, which is always good. So obviously more to come, and we'll adjust as it goes forward. So that's kind of where that situation is. And no time frame has been identified in terms of it going to the governor. So I don't have a time frame in regards to that as of yet. So
Any questions?
3 days.
Okay. Any questions at all? Comments? No? Okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I am just appalled that it's even gotten to this point. Absolutely appalled.
Yeah, though, I did get several emails during the hearing from Representative Swantek, in opposition, and he needed information on different things about what we do at the library and identify different things. And so certainly I was glad I was at my desk when all those emails came in. I was able to answer them. And so, and he, in terms of any elected official on the state side, he's the only person that has ever contacted me in regards to this legislation,
Oh, interesting.
despite us being the largest library in the state of North Dakota. He's the only person. As he's the only the only elected official in that regard. So I thanked him for, reaching out and having that conversation. And I expressed, obviously, my concerns with the legislation. He said he agreed. And I tried to provide him as much information as I could as part of that conversation that he was having at the hearing. So that was reassuring.
Good.
So
Maybe I can add just on that. The governor will have this bill for 3 days. He has to make a decision within these 3 days whether he's going to pass it on or he's going to boycott it or say no. So, of course, this is a good opportunity to call the governor's office and say hello. I'm sure he'd like to hear from you. Thank you.
Good idea.
Okay, moving on to C. We have an action item here for endowment disbursement expenditures.
right. Usually on an annual basis, well, every annual, we get a certain amount of disbursements through our endowment with the FM Area Foundation. Our total, we have two separate endowments at a total for $930,874 as of end of year 2024. And you see there in the summary sheet, the amount of money that those disbursements represent. Certainly, in previous years, I basically rolled those disbursements back into the principal based on where we were and what we needed. I think this year, given the overall revenue concerns at the city side in terms of overall budgets, and really looking at 2026, what we've already identified, we're going to get into that obviously per the agenda, but we do have needs. And, and I don't, if we have certain level of resources, I don't want to wait for things to get so beat up and unserviceable or unpleasant that, it detracts from the experience of the patron. So knowing that we had these disbursements, I identified, talking to the admin team, you see those there. One is the replacement of children's furniture at Carlson, which the sheer number of little ones that are coming there, they get plenty of activity. So it's been like 7 years, I think. It's always longer when you get old since we got it. But the other one is reupholstering some of the adult furniture upstairs, which is a heck of a lot cheaper than buying new stuff.
Yeah.
It's basically fraying away off, and it's just use like anything else. When you got between 600 and 900 people coming through there a day, that it's going to get a lot of activity. So obviously, this being endowment disbursements, wanted to bring this to the board for action. If anyone has any questions.
I like the emphasis on sale and free shipping on the price list for the children's furniture.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions at all in regards to this? No? Okay, then do we have a motion for approval?
Yeah, my motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that passes.
All right, thank you.
Better hurry up and get that. Free
On
shipping
sale,
ends
free
the
ship.
25th.
Well,
Free shipping until tomorrow. Soon.
it's to like the end of April or something like that. So
Yeah, April 25th. That's like next week.
I'll talk to Lori tomorrow bright and early in the morning. So get right on the phone.
Okay, next we are on to letter D, the 2026 library budget.
Yeah, just per my previous comments, and the conversation in terms of 2026 budget overall from the city side is really, focusing on core and all those kinds of things, which frankly, the library always has, because we've always, just with the sheer number of staff, we have to focus on core because that's pretty much all the folks we have. So really going through what we're looking for on the staffing side is simply moving our part-time tech assistants, library associate 3 from part-time to full-time. And it's just needed so badly with the increase in technologies and platforms that we both have acquired to add efficiencies in terms of service, and platforms that the city has made part of how we do business with the city, and just maintaining all that, and maintaining a level of customer service, and updating things. It's just very simple. Right now we have one full-time person and a part-time person, and that's a lot. And it's a lot. So hopefully, this is not an extraordinary ask in terms of staffing, but it's needed. In terms of capital, it's the replacement of some of our self-checkouts, which are huge in terms of usage. Really, a lot of folks use those, and it takes a relief on the circulation staff that folks can go ahead and do it themselves, but they need to function. They can't get old and stop working, obviously. On the revenue side, pretty simple. We're never considered a revenue source for the city. So you see that library fines and fees posited right around 25,000 based on expected activity. State library aid per the state library is around 110,000. And miscellaneous revenue based on a 12-month of activity is right around 4,000. In terms of operating budgets, for 2026, the first upper 7010, that represents Maine, 7012 represents Carlson, and 7016 represents Northport. In terms of 7010 being Maine, the increases, you see those there. You see the 25 original proposed increase on the security line, obviously moving from ASP Moorhead to Signal of North Dakota. It's accounting for those increases based on the hourly. For Maine, in terms of service contracts, you see that little over $26,000 increase. That's really keeping up with increases in those individual maintenance contracts that we're trying to get caught up on those. Cellular phone service, it's just basic increases. Some of those are pretty standard. Dues and membership in-state, dues and membership out-of-state, just trying to keep it up, just that we have staff to have opportunities to be part of associations. Office supplies, OS incremental increases there. In terms of books and periodicals that you see there, the $35,000, that represents primarily e-content, because obviously that is the real growth aspect and highly popular with our collections. Moving on to Carlson 7012, again, acknowledging the increase by hour for security at Carlson per Signal of North Dakota. And then the last line increase is represent for Northport is just the incremental increases of lease and CAM charges per the location. If anyone has any questions.
I just have a question on the self-checkout. Is that for all locations or?
I believe it might be both locations, I think, or maybe just Maine. I don't know it specifically.
Okay.
But we have them at all locations for sure.
Gotcha.
What, if I may, what happened there with the maintenance service contract? It's gone up 30-some%. I mean, that's a big jump.
Well,
And,
here's the history of it, unless you want, that's the individual history.
Thank you.
It's just, that's what's been going on. And we want to keep up with that, obviously. You know, all of those things, you know, the one thing, the big one is certainly copiers. That's a big chunk of cash. And, you know, one of the questions was, you know, from the city as to me as a department head is what efficiencies. And to me, there's got to be a way the city could leverage some kind of economy of scale in terms of that contract with Toshiba, as opposed to X, Y, and Z department each having their own contracts for X, Y, and machine or whatever, that seems a heck of a lot more expensive than the whole city contract vis-a-vis per department. So, you know, maybe there's drawbacks there, or maybe there isn't any savings, but that was the first thing that came to my mind, because that's a big chunk of money. $19,000. You know, obviously we need copiers, we need, and we need all those things to function. That's just the way things are. And we need them to have the functionality of fax and email, and all that kind of good stuff. But it's just where those costs are.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, do I have a motion for approval of the 2026 library budget?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Here, I'll second.
Okay, all those, or any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Moving on to our statistical report, our March usage.
Yes. Right there in your packet, you can see library use, and it's kind of happy. See the attendance up in comparison to last year, despite being closed on Sunday hours. That was fun to see. And then kind of the bounce back in terms of attendance at programming this past March as opposed to March of 24. Volunteer hours is still strong. Internet sign up just down a little bit. Web activity, it always fluctuates. What I'm really excited about was interesting is in terms of the circulation, is that if you remember, in both January and February, our circulation was down in comparison of last year, which didn't surprise me significantly given the change in hours. But March of 25 beat March of 24, which was a record for the month of March. So we have a new record for circulation for March 2025. It'll be interesting to see how the rest, as we go through the rest of the year, how that plays out and how, people have adjusted their schedules. And maybe, thinking back as, I don't know, this is North Dakota, we actually had winter in January and February of this year as opposed to last year. So maybe that played into it. I don't know. But it's encouraging to see, with the adjustments that we did to sustain staff, that, folks are adjusting and things are busy.
That's good.
All right, any questions at all in regards to usage? Okay, moving on to our March financials.
Looking at the donation summary on the expense side, you see $106, and that was staff reimbursing for the library purchasing summer reading program T-shirts. On the expenditure side, the $924, 19 of that is craft or noon expenditures, and the other 905 is summer reading challenge expenditures. Thank you, friends. And then the others, Way to Go staff recognition cards of $30. Again, thank you, friends, for that. So that's that in terms of donation summary. In terms of overall budget through 25% of the year lapsed, looking at a little over 23% expended, so right where we want to be. And revenue, just under $9,000 through the end of March.
Any questions at all on the financials? Okay, moving on to the Friends of the Library report.
Our
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having me. Again, Marissa Nygaard, President of the Friends of the Fargo Public Library. We have kind of a bright report today, at least we think it's really exciting. Our semi-annual book sale ran from Thursday to Saturday this past week, and we don't have the branches included yet, so we just have the main sale, and that was $3,800. And just as a frame of reference for our June and our October book sales of 24, our overall branches included in everything was about 2,500 each. So we really had a significant increase this year. We feel great about that. And part of it too is that WDAY came and covered on Saturday, on Friday. To share about the bag sale on Saturday. So had a lot of great traffic. And if you stop by Second Editions at all, our bookstore, the shelves are pretty bare, which just feels great. That's our dream, right? To get books out the door in the hands of folks, and of course, money back to the library. So if you have any donations at all for spring cleaning and you want to offload some books, please feel free to bring them to us. And then the other thing we did that was new, it was a new idea this year. So shout out to Michelle Anderson for having this thought and implementing it as well. We did a special sale for Fargo Public School employees. It would have been last week, so early April. And we did a bag sale for teachers and again, just any Fargo Public School employee. And we raised $580 through that. So again, just trying to broaden and think of some new initiatives so we can continue to support the library. Other than that, the final thing I wanted to share is that the funding requests, and Tim had shared it earlier too, but just Northern Narratives and Summer Reading Kickoff. So happy to support those two things. Any questions for me at all?
Can you tell us how do we donate books?
Yeah, absolutely. You can just feel free to bring them during any time that the library is open. You can bring them right to Second Editions and a volunteer will be there to help you out. And for whatever reason, if they are not staffed at that point, Tim, could donations be brought to the front desk if a
Yeah, we
volunteer's
like
not
to
there?
limit it to 5 boxes.
Yep.
You know, we've had, trust me, we've had situations where
Isn't that crazy?
we didn't quite posit that limit. And I think there was a situation where this guy, I got called to the back and there was like, a guy had a truck and it was something.
Okay.
So just so everybody listening, it's,
5 boxes.
if you got 30 boxes,
Special
5 one day, wait a couple days, bring another 5.
Yep.
Neat.
Okay.
Just,
Amazing.
yeah,
Okay.
it can, I've seen it. And as a former mover, I was traumatized.
I'm sure
Twitch.
all those boxes were very much appreciated.
Oh, yeah.
But,
And there you have it.
okay. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Okay. Our next meeting is going to be May 20th, and we are adjourned.